sound in here. So thank you so much for being here today. And my name is Fernanda Furman. I am an international architect and also a healthy home specialist. Eric is my husband. We have been helping people for the past 5 years, about 7 years now, and 5 years with other services, helping people detox their home, the water, their air, also finding and removing mold from their homes, educating, helping them with EMF, product selection, design in their kitchen and bathroom. So, just a little bit of a background why we do what we do is that many years ago, I got extremely ill and I had no idea what was going on with me. I'm originally from Brazil, so you might hear some accent and some funny things that I might say once in a while. But I got extremely ill inside of my house. And it took us years of trying and going from doctor to doctor and getting prescriptions that, even though they said I had nothing, they would still prescribe me drugs, and one of the doctors even threatened to revoke my driver's license. So after all that period, what we realized is that there are a lot of the doctors, I would say, usually the Western doctors, that are not aware of how environmental toxins are affecting our lives and our health. And it was a long time where our house became a lab. We started trying things, and some things worked, some things didn't work, and we kept making the changes until we found the solution and the protocol that actually worked. A lot of the things that we see out there today are good products, but when you put it in a house, they don't work as they were supposed to. So we're not going to be talking about brands. We're not going to be talking about companies, or talking about what it's bad about their products. What we want to focus on is what can we do today to create a healthier home. And a lot of the people that are trying to do the right thing sometimes are not just like me. We make mistakes, and we find a lot of information on Pinterest, on the internet. And a lot of times you're going to see one person talking amazingly about a product, another person is saying that product doesn't work. So who do you trust? So finding, sources today that are trustworthy, it's not that easy. And it takes years of researching and trying. So some of the things that we're going to talk about today, it's the water, the air, the EMF, some of the products in mold as well. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that our clients have shared, and also some of the things that we have helped them overcome. So indoor air quality, right? We stands for IAQ. So that's one of the top 5 environmental health risks today. And especially right now, and I think at this time that we are recording this, we're going through quarantine with COVID-19. We're spending so much time in the house with our families, and every day is getting more restrict, right? Instead of getting better, at least in California, it's getting more restrict. So there are some things that we can do, that we can look into, and I want to focus on the mistakes, because those are the things that sometimes they're overlooked and we don't see when we don't think about it. One of them, let's get started with not replacing our air filters, right? A lot of times we replace them and we forget, and a year goes by and you have no idea that it's been a year, 2 years. And depending on the type of air filter that we are using, if you're not using a HEPA filter, which I would recommend everybody that's listening to this right now after we're done, to go and look in your air conditioner and look at your filters and see if you have a HEPA filter. If you don't, that's the first thing you want to do. Even for vacuum cleaners, we can get vacuum cleaners that has the HEPA filter, which is a very high quality of filter, right? So when you don't do that, what happens is all of that dust starts accumulating, especially if you have pets. And human beings also, have the dander. It's not just pets, but it accumulates on the system and actually clogs the filter. All that dust clogs the filter. And if you have mold in the house, you could potentially have also mold in your filter. So it's very important right now that you look into your air filter. Um, we had a client that, when we asked them about changing oh yeah, the air filter, yeah, we always change. But when Eric went there, it was expired by years and years and years because that's not the top of our priorities. So we forget about it. Doesn't, remember, like sometimes you go like, oh my gosh, it's already your birthday again. The year went by so fast, right? So important thing. The other thing is cooking. So I prepared this presentation with a lot of slides. Unfortunately, the software that I was going to use didn't work. But cooking, Eric did a test when we were cooking in the house, and it showed the graph, and it shows how much the indoor air quality gets lower when we're cooking, especially if you're cooking with oils and you're heating it up, right? If you don't have the proper ventilation, all of that is going to be trapped inside of your house, inside of your kitchen. And also when you're cooking, you're right there facing the pot. You're right there with it. So you're breathing that. There is a high number of chefs that has health issues, and that's one of the reasons why. So when cooking, it's very important that you open all the windows if you don't have proper ventilation. So when we bought the house, what happened is when we bought the house, we had a microwave. Even though we don't use microwaves, the microwave was there. So when we opened the top of the microwave, there was a pipe. Great. It's ventilating, right? So a lot of times before I knew this, I was using the fan inside of the microwave to kind of catch all that smoke that was coming up from the food. Well, actually what was going on is that air was just recirculating inside of the kitchen. It was not getting filtered outside. When Eric looked at it, it was not connected to anything. So how many times did you open and you check the ventilation on above your stove just to make sure it's working properly? We don't usually do that. So that's one of the mistakes. Just trusting that the ventilation is working properly without even looking at it, and cooking with the windows closed. The other thing too is the cleaning products that we use. Those release volatile, what's called VOC, volatile organic compounds. And what is that? So those are like those very little particles that gets in the air when, for example, when you're using bleach, right? I became highly sensitive to bleach. And if somebody uses bleach around me, I have a tendency to lose, start getting dizzy and lose balance. And it's just the craziest thing. It didn't happen to me before. It happens now. So one of the things is making sure your cleaning products are safe. They don't have fragrance. And what happens now when you buy products that have fragrance on it, what happens is that's a word they can use, and they can hide any chemical ingredients in there. So one of the products that I use to love, it was, when you look at the box, everything makes you believe that product's the best product in the market, non-toxic, not tested on animals, like unbelievable. But when I looked at the back, there was very little made with essential oils, that's what the front said, made with essential oils, but the back said, and synthetic fragrances. Now for us, women especially, that will be an issue if you use that over time, because that is a hormone disruptor. So not going to get into too many details, but for you, when you're buying products, make sure you turn around the box and look at what the real ingredients are in there, because those cleaning products are going to come in the air, and they are the ones that are creating the VOC. The other mistake we also do is storing. A lot of us that have homes that have done some kind of improvement in the house, painting, all of those products that we use, we keep them inside of the envelope of the house in the garage. If you have a detached garage, that's totally fine. But if your garage is attached to your home, make sure that you remove those ingredients, those cans, those toxic products outside of the envelope of your house, because that will make through, once you open that can, it will make through your air, and that can be easily tested. So another mistake that we do is not testing the air in our house. And this should be something we should be doing annually. You test the air and then see what's in there, and then see if you're fine. Next year, you do it again. Just like you do maintenance in your trees and in your home, you have to do in the air as well. So, and that also, another thing that we do very often is that for us that work from home, we have our printers, and usually the printers are inside of the office and close to where we work. So the ink, it's also, releasing toxicity in the air. What I would say is keep it maybe in a different room, or, close the doors, have a way that you don't have to be breathing that all the time. For the air too, there are a lot of people that are using air purifiers. And one of my friends, she bought an air purifier, and she thought that buying one air purifier would do the job for the whole house. And that's far from the truth. So another mistake is buying air purifiers, and there are many different ones out there. Eric is going to make a video about, that in particular, what you should be looking for, the difference in between them, so you can have a better understanding of that. But one thing you need to know is that that air purifier will only work in a certain area. So for example, some of them are going to be up to 100 square feet. So maybe just in one bedroom. And that's great. We have one that we travel with all the time. Anywhere we go, we bring our air purifier with us, and we put in the hotel room. So make sure that when you're buying the air purifier, make sure to look at what's the square footage that will cover. For people that have asthma, that have health issues, it's always good to, the portable ones you can always put close to you where you are. But just remember, just because you put in there, it's not going to do the job immediately, especially if you have a big living room, right? So it takes a while to work, and it depends on the size of the room. So for the air, there's much more to talk about, but another mistake that we do is we close off our homes. And right now, there's this misunderstanding that some of the people I talk to, they want to keep their house closed because they think the coronavirus or the viruses are going to come inside of the home. So they close up everything, and they're inside of the house, and they have a lot of people have too much stuff, a lot of clutter, a lot of dust everywhere, and carpets, and also blankets and pillows, a lot of textiles that accumulates dust. And if you're not washing that very often, that will accumulate dust. And by closing up your house, you're not bringing in fresh air. So it's very important that you have that exchange of fresh air. Also, to have monitors for to measure the CO2 levels. Okay, that's one of the things now that we're spending way too much time in the house. Everything's closed off, and that monitor you can buy on Amazon, and just make sure you keep that the CO2 levels correctly. So again, we're not going to get into all the details on this video. It's more about bringing awareness of the things that we are overlooking in a house. And we will be creating videos separately for each one of those things that we're talking about right now. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is mold, right? So people, and I love plants, but a lot of people will buy a lot of plants so they can put in the house and purify the air. Well, there's one problem with that too, because when you water your plants, the soil creates the humidity. And the more plants you have, and it's hard to tell how many plants you need for each room, the square footage, what's going to be working, what's not. And one thing to keep in mind is the plants and the soils can cause mold to grow. And the reason why, it's because of the humidity, especially if you have way too many plants and you don't open your windows. And that brings us to the humidity levels, right? So there is some kind of a safe level of humidity that we have to keep it in the house. And you can also buy a monitor to check the humidity levels. And anything below, they say below 35, it will help viruses to grow. So if you are concerned about, coronavirus or any other viruses to grow, make sure you keep your humidity levels above 35. If you have it above 50, then you could actually create mold or create a space where it's very easy for mold to grow, right? So controlling the humidity levels, it's very important. Sometimes they're going to be more humid outside than indoors, so just making sure you keep that. And that's something easy you can do right now. So the plants also, make sure you keep in mind, if you have pets, what's safe for them and what's not. Okay. So the other thing with mold is HVAC, right? The HVAC system. If you have mold in your house and you have already detected the mold, what happens is, if you see mold around the air conditioner system or around the fan, make sure, or around the, oh my gosh, totally forgot about the name of that. Like when you see the vent coming in. So if you see any mold around there, so then for sure contact a company to check for mold. If you don't, but you have mold in a house, make sure they check for the mold inside of the ducts. Eric has found mold in the ducts many times, especially because of the humidity of the condenser. So make sure that is also checked when you're doing your inspection for mold. Also, with the HVAC, make sure you always have it maintained. People also think that you don't need to maintain and they forget about it. That's very important to maintain. Put in your maintenance calendar. Gutters. So if there is a mold, if there is leaves and you don't do the maintenance, and I think mold has a lot to do with maintenance. So for you, if you have, when the gutters are leaking or they leak inside of the basement, if you have a basement, or there are a lot of debris or leaves in the gutters, that could be a place where mold and could grow as well. So make sure to keep it clean and check for leaks. The other thing too is water damage, right? It could be from something that happened with your dryer, with your washer, or it could be from a rain. Make sure to look for stains in your house. So a little thing that happened to us is that we had mold in our house. And I don't know, for many months, we decided that we're not going to deal with it because it was going to cost us $80,000, and we didn't have that money sitting around. We're going to have to demolish the whole kitchen and the bathroom, and that we were not ready for that. So we had to, made a decision to live with mold for a while until we were ready to do that. And that's when Eric got certified as a mold remediator. because a lot of the people that would come to the house, what they would do is fix the mold, but not fix the source. And in the process, Eric found a company where the mold, now we can remove mold in 2 or 3 days, which to me it made more sense. So we were out of the house for those 3 days, and when we came in the house, Eric tested the air. It was perfect. We had a big storm that night. The next morning, Eric looks on the ceiling and there is a water spot. There is like a watermark. So he has this infrared monitor that he puts in the ceiling, and he can see where the water was leaking from the roof. So have we not noticed that? That could have been, we just fixed mold. We just fixed the mold, just got the perfect air quality in our house. And then very next day, it could have been affected by mold. So check for water leaks and the water stains in the house. So some of the mistakes is not looking for that and just thinking that, oh, that's just a stain in the ceiling or in the wall. That's not. That's actually potentially, a health problem for you if mold grows. The other thing too is the washer, right? We have a front load, and a lot of the times, if you don't keep the doors open, what's going to happen is in that rubber, there's so many areas around that rubber that mold will grow inside of that your machine. So make sure you keep your eyes and always keep cleaning that rubber so that you don't have mold growing in there. So just forgetting about it, it's not gonna make it better. The other thing too with mold is that we found out recently, it was like very shocking for us, is that mold can grow inside of your shower head. So we are about to do an experiment right now. We removed our shower head, and Eric is gonna cut it open. We're going to be recording and going through the whole process with you guys. Not only the shower head, but also the hose that we use to get the handles out of it and wash. So that also has a lot of potential to grow mold. So there are options. We end up getting a shower head that it's openable, so you can see inside. We take a shower, we open up, and if we know for sure that there's no mold growing in there. And there are other bacteria and viruses that can grow in the shower head as well. As a matter of fact, COVID-19, there is a study now being made that was done that showed that potential that COVID could be in the water as well. So that's one of the places that you want to do. And then just moving into water, a lot of people, and I just spoke with a lady that still uses tap water, and a lot of people do because they believe the government is doing a great job cleaning the water, and they are, right? But the biggest mistake is thinking that once that water comes into your home, you don't need to do anything about it. You do, because the government and the cities, they will clean so much inside of that with the water that comes, especially here in California. Our water comes from far away, travels along the way, pesticides and pharmaceutical waste is getting in our water, chromium 6, so much it's getting in our water. And once it gets here, what we do is the city has a report that's free for everybody. You can download the report and then test your water. That's one of the biggest things you can do. And the biggest mistakes is just not using, any type of filtration once your water, once you get into your house, right? So there are two different type of filtrations. There's actually more, but you can filter the whole house. Once the water comes from the city, from the street into your home, you filter the whole house. And think about this. your body is your largest organ. So it drinks water. When you're taking your shower, when you're washing your face, it is drinking that water through your skin. So make sure that you understand what's in your water, but don't make the mistake to think that just that will be enough. Because unless you use reverse osmosis for the whole house, that filtration is not enough for the drinking part of it. Then we got to the drinking part of the water filtration system. And there are all different types of water filtration systems out there for drinking. And some of them are not supposed to filter. They're ionizers. And they are great ionizers, but they still need to be pre-filtered because they are creating alkaline water and ionized water, but they're not filtering the water from all the things that they need to be filtered. Now, some of the companies start putting a pre-filter, but that is not enough to filter everything that it's coming through. So make sure you know that. The pitchers, right? A lot of people use that, put inside of the refrigerator or drink refrigerator water. That's another mistake that we do because they're not filtering all the possible toxins in the water. And if you go to ewgwater.org, you're going to see, type your zip code there, and you're going to see what's in your water. So that's another place that you can check out as well. Now, for the water also, you make ice. And that's the mistake I made. Even when we had a drinking system, our refrigerator was not connected to the reverse osmosis. And I was drinking everything I was drinking with ice. The ice was not filtered. So it was coming from the refrigerator. And for some reason, that's like one of the things that I didn't even think until one day it hit me, right? So that's another mistake. If you have a drinking system, a filtration for your drinking water, make sure your ice is also being filtered. Another mistake is gardening, right? We have some herbs. A lot of people like to grow their own garden, but then what water are you using to water that garden? Are we using filtered water? Are we using the water that comes from the city? If it is, you're getting pesticide in your herbs as well. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. And we also one of the big mistakes we see is that people buy even like the reverse osmosis, and they don't change the filter as often as needed. So when you buy a system, you need to make sure that every filter is different. Some filters will last 3 months, some filters will last a year. Some filters, like ours, can last a year and a half. So you don't have to change as often. Now, if you buy a system that is cheaper, chances are you're going to have to change the filters more often, and you have to. I wish I had the pictures here to show you guys what the before and after, but there was a day where they were doing work outside of my house, and I happened to work by the window. So there was no notice that we're going to do any work, and when they finished, I called Eric and I said, "Hey, they're just finishing working on the street. Come from the other side." And he said, "Don't open the water." So I didn't. When he comes home and he opens the water, and our filter that we had just changed went from white to black. I mean, jet black, just from them working on the street. Now, if we didn't have that filter, we would have been showering with that. And then you wonder why kids and people are having skin issues, right? So make sure you change your filters often. Make sure you have that in your maintenance schedule. The other thing is EMF. So EMF is something that it took us a while to catch up to it. And we were not a big believers in that before until we started looking more into it. And Eric did a test in our microwave. Again, we don't use a microwave, but we still have it there until we're able to remodel the kitchen and get rid of it. And what happened is we did a test, we turned on the microwave, and for about, I would say 10 feet away, Eric could still measure the electromagnetic field coming from the microwave, which is insane. What most of the people do, if you're using microwave, do not stand by the microwave. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see, is that people will, they're such in a hurry to get their food ready, especially if they are at work. So they put them, their food in there, they're missing miojo in there or the noodles. And then what they do is they sit right there, they stand right there waiting for the timer. Don't do that. If you have to do your microwave your food, just move out to another room and wait until it's done. The other biggest mistake that I also did for a long time was charging my cell phone right by my bed. So I was sleeping with my phone right by my bed, and it was not in airplane mode or anything like that. So what happened is all night long, my sleep was being disrupted by the electromagnetic field. So that's one of the things so easy you can do too. Get your phone and charge it outside, far away from you. Put your phone in airplane mode. Turn off your phone if possible. And that it's like one of the biggest mistakes we see all the time. It's sometimes people would take pictures with their kids in bed, and we just woke up, and then I will call, that just happened. And then I call my friend and I said, I see your phone charging. Did you sleep with your phone in airplane mode? And she's like, no, I don't believe those things. But once we measured, and we had a measurement actually done for me, because I am the one that shows more symptoms with all of those things that I'm talking about. I'm the one that are more susceptible to show symptoms of exposure to environmental toxins than my whole family. So we did a measurement, and we measured my body with the cell phone being charged. And it's unbelievable. You just can't deny the numbers. It's there. That was the last time we used a cell phone. We left the cell phone sleeping on the side of our bed. So there's so much more that we can talk about, and I hope this was very helpful. We have a masterclass coming up, which is going to be a 5-day masterclass, and it's free, just like this workshop. And we're going to talk more in details about what to do in your bathroom, in your kitchen, and there's much more than just the few things that I talked about today. So in those 5 days, you're going to have a chance to also ask questions, participate. We're going to have some prizes. You're going to have actionable steps that you can take in your house. You're going to have a workbook that you can keep and you can always use later on. One of the most important things is maintenance. So even if you do all of that, like I was just telling you about mold, we did all the mold remediation. The very next day, I could have had mold in my house again. So knowledge is powerful. If you own a house, this is something you really need to know, because every time you hire a professional to come to your house, they might not be aware of all the things because they're only focused on one area. They're only trained to look at one area. They're not trained to look at the whole house, together. So very important knowledge. Get that knowledge. So even when you have to hire somebody, you know what to expect, you know what to ask for. And I'm going to be sending an email. Also, if you didn't send us an email, if you didn't sign up for this workshop and you were invited but didn't sign up, go to livewellindoors.com and sign up for a newsletter or sign up for download our free ebook in there and sign up for our masterclass. It's going to start on May 18th. And again, we're going to go deeper inside of all those things that we talked about today. If you have any questions, please email us at hello@livewellindoors.com. This video is going to be available for replay for 48 hours. So if you have anybody you want to share this information with, please share. The more of us that are, creating healthier environments, the more families are going to be healthier. So thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I hope to hear back from you soon.